What's up out there? We are back with another update for my Tectonic Slam Chieftain. So we are going to run this is just a tier 11 map. Nothing fancy, I just want to throw something on here. Potentially could dive to the boss. We'll try to fight it real fast and see how it is. Basically what I want to show here, do I remember the boss? Oh, this is the boss. Oh, I remember the boss on this one. Yeah, this one might suck. So this boss actually killed me. I had to finish this boss off with my caustic arrow build. So we'll see how this one does. It's slightly rolled, and basically the big changes, you guys have had some really good suggestions for things to try on here or things to change on what I had. And I had to walk back. I had a few changes that I had to walk back. They were suggestions, and then they just ended up not being, not panning out, which we'll get into because there were some things I didn't quite understand. So when especially on the ascendancy, so I made an ascendancy change since the last video because I'm pretty sure I had something different, and I backed out of what I had, and it makes sense. We'll just go ahead and run these real quick here, but you can see that there is a massive amount of AoE that comes off of this thing. So you basically shoot off, and it just goes off the screen. I love this. The amount of AoE that comes out of this thing and the amount of destruction that just flies out of this is awesome. And there's a couple of key changes that really helped out with this. Added all the space that this thing absorbs now, or takes it, goes off into. Oh, here's the boss. Yeah, we're not taking damage now. Oh, there we are. Like, this was an insta-death when I first fought her. It was miserable. Even trying to move around, like, I just couldn't get away. I couldn't withstand. Yeah, just totally wrecked her. So, that's where I'm at right now. I died horribly to her. That was a very frustrating fight, and I ended up having to pull out my caustic arrow build to get in there and get that done. And this build just basically tanked it all. And I know that's after a lot of time and effort's been put into this build, so it feels good to be able to go back to that. And it's a rolled, well, it's not corrupted though. I guess I would have had to finish that corrupted, but it's nice to be able to go back to that and see see it work. Okay, so I am level 92 right now. I think I've gone down in health slightly. I think I was at like 35, 38, something like that. I've actually gone down in health. I do have a little bit more armor, a bit more evasion, so we've got a little bit more damage reduction and chance to evade. Life regen has gone up. I think I was at 480 or 500 or something like that, so we're up at 630. I do have a bit of spell suppression on here. I've also got my resistances all up to 83%. Chaos res is up to 61%. So I've got a lot of that taken care of. We've got freeze avoidance, which is great. Other ailment avoidance I don't have quite yet. One thing I neglected to do, which I've now corrected, is to go get the Tanner Lightfoot to avoid being frozen. So I started working on those. I've got a couple of these done, and I got the one for corrupted blood. So hopefully that isn't much of a problem anymore. So that takes care of stun and block recovery. You cannot be stunned if you've been stunned recently, or 2 seconds or whatever, and then avoid being frozen. The avoid being frozen thing was the one that really was aggravating to deal with. Corrupted blood I'm not too worried about, but being able to take it, I had that on the passive tree, but being able to put it here on the Pantheon, at least mitigate it, if not remove it completely, it's fine. And I also have my health flask has grants immunity to bleeding and corrupted blood if used while you have corrupted blood. So I've got all that covered. That kind of takes care of a lot of things all at once. You'll notice, I don't remember where I was in the last video. I'm going to go over the gear that I have just very quickly and the skills that I'm using, because I don't remember what exactly I did in the last video or where I was, because it's been a long couple of days and I've leveled up 4 times, I think, since then. I think I was level 88 in the last one. So I've 5 linked the mace and my chest piece. And we are running Tectonic Slam with added fire damage, endurance charge on melee, stun, pulverize, and life tap. So pulverize has increased area of effect with more melee area damage, slightly less attack speed. And then endurance charge on melee stun support. There was enduring cry. It sucked. I didn't like it. It wasn't giving me endurance charges. I swapped to this, and now I'm basically full stacks of endurance charges. On my chest piece, I needed a lot of decks and stuff like that, so you're going to see a lot of decks and int throughout here. This isn't necessarily the most appropriate chest piece on here, like the reflect fizz damage. I don't know that I care about that. I did convert whatever resistance I had over to fire, and then like I said, we've got decks on here. I've got 7% increase for the implicits. I've got, what is this, an eater? Exarch is... the Exarch implicit is 9% of damage taken recouped as life, and then the Eater one is 7% of increased life recovery rate. So that brings up that recovery rate a little bit further. On the helmet, I swapped my helmet, my gloves, and my boots out. So this is the same chest piece I had the other day, but a different helmet. So I've got on for the implicit on this, it's got Dex and Int, big fire res, life, and some evasion on here. So it's also got a big 527 armor and evasion of 789. But for an implicit, we've got damage penetrates 4% fire res. I left it at that. I could change that to something else potentially, but I left it on that. I figured that'll help out a little bit. 8% increased area of effect. And then for the gloves, well, this is Night Helm. For the gloves, I've gone with Wyvern Scale Gauntlets. So these are armor evasion, 443 in both. And I got 10% of physical damage converted to fire damage, so that is going to help on the damage side of things. And then I've got plus 6% physical damage over time multiplier. They both seemed appropriate. This has also got the slight chance for spell suppression, a little life regen, big chaos, 35% chaos res, and then the rest of it's kind of whatever. I don't really care. I could get rid of the increased stun and block recovery, but I don't want to run the, what is this currency here? I don't want to run an annulment on there and then lose the good one, or a good one. So I'll probably end up adding something to that. I could craft, no, I can't craft. Yeah, I can. I can craft something onto this. I just haven't crafted anything. Probably should craft life on there, maybe. That might get some life back. Big chaos res ring. This has got, what, 59% chaos res on it. And then my math's wrong, so that might vary. 49%. 49% chaos res. A little bit of evasion, big fire res. And I think this was converted from something else. I made sure to have all fire res on here because of what I got on my ascendancy. Big dex, big int on here, and fire res on this one. Damage taken recouped is life. A little bit of that helps out. And then some added fire and added fizz. I think I can add something else to that. Potentially. Yeah, I can probably add another prefix on there if I get a Exalt. For the boots, we've got attacks exerted by seismic cry deal 23% increased damage. I thought that was pretty cool. And I kept this one. It's plus 1% max fire res. We've got armor evasion. This is Chimera scale boots. I think it's some of the new boots. 41% fire res and 7% chaos res with another increase to life regen and max life. Let's see, we've looked at all this. I think we looked at like the rings and stuff the last time, so there's nothing terribly interesting there. I've also got my flasks I don't have them all qualitied, but I use when charges reach full on here, and I have gain charge, and gain charge. So they should all work. I'm running the Ruby Flask. This one has, this gives you an additional 40% to fire res when it goes up, and a plus 5 to max. So not only does that raise, if we go look at the character stuff here, if I click on this, we're going to go from 83% fire res with 208, 90, and 100 to 88, 248, 110, and 120. So that raises everything up. So that's really cool there. So that having that flask up adds that much more, I don't want to call it damage reduction, but damage mitigation. From what I understand, the higher the resistance you have, you get your 75% and then you carry over, like I'm 8% over right now. If you get that 8% over, that's an additional amount of damage that's not coming in. It just reduces by that much. So I've been pushing my fire res as much as possible. I actually spec'd into Harvest. I've never spec'd into Harvest before. Usually I run them when I see them, but I've never actually spec'd into it. But I needed to get some Harvest stuff on here because somewhere on one of these, I might have switched the gear out by now, but one of these had like cold and fire or something like that, and I had to switch things around so that I could get the right numbers on here. I don't know. I don't remember where it was, but I swapped some things around and got that. You know, my belt's got 30% chaos res. That's why I've got so much good chaos res right now. So that is all of this taken care of. I did make, let's look at the passive tree for a second. I'm kind of going to bounce around here for a second. Somebody suggested to make sure and take this 40% of fizz converted to fire. I had looked at that at one point. I don't know why I didn't take it. I'm not saying that I knew better. Maybe I tried it and it didn't do a whole lot when I first looked at it or something. And then it actually does make a lot of difference. So it was an oversight and it's in there now. I've also gone into Fortify or Steadfast over here. So we're getting Fortification, a little bit more life regen. Melee hits, Fortify. Now I know you can put this in a 6-link with the skill gem, or the support gem. I don't want to do that. I would prefer to do this. I think you get a little bit more Fortify out of this, even though this gobbles up a few more points. So basically what I did is I leveled up a few times and then I robbed, I think I had, you cannot be maimed or hindered here. And I took another one. I don't remember what I took. Oh, the hits that stun enemies have culling strike. This one I want back. Next level I get is going to go back into this. But the maim one and the maim and hindered, I don't know that that's too big a deal. It was annoying for a minute, but I'm kind of not having that problem anymore. So I didn't mind coughing those two up because I leveled up, I don't know, a few times to get over to here. And then I borrowed those so that I could get these points in here so that I get fortification going. Now, that's kind of about it for the passive tree. That's really it. Not a whole lot of changes. I put a point into this fire mastery. I took fortification, dropped these two, and that's kind of about it that I've done. On the ascendancy side, though, I did have Scion Sun's Roar, which is 30% increased Warcry buff effect, and Warcries have infinite power. Now, somebody had suggested taking this, and when I was putting my build together, you kind of read things like if you go read, where's it at? If you read this automation spell Monday and then you sock it in a gem on Thursday, you're going to forget what this thing said. I'm sorry, not automation. What am I looking for here? I moved it. Auto exertion. So when you read this one day and then a couple of days later, you go and start socketing things in and then maybe you switch some things out and you go back and forth, you forget what this thing said. And somebody made a comment. One person suggested that I need to take War's Herald and Sun's Roar. They said these are like the meta or whatever. And I kind of bounced around on that a little bit. If you remember, if you're new, you may not have been following this build the entire time, but I had Flames Advance at one point, and somebody was saying I should switch over to Sun's Roar and War's Herald. I was talking about coming over to Storm's Embrace, and they said, no, you really want these two here. They're really good for what you're doing. I think I was supposed to skip this one here, Death's Fury. I like Death's Fury. The explosion you get out of it's hilarious, and it kills a lot of stuff very quickly. It doesn't necessarily go off all the time, but it goes off often enough, and it can kill bosses and all kinds of other stuff if it packs around it. So I think the intent was that I needed to come over here and then pick some other stuff. I don't know what other stuff I was supposed to pick. I don't remember, but I ended up taking, well, the first thing I took was Flames Advance, then I went over to Cleansing Water, and then I came over to Death's Fury, and when I did my final lab run or something like that, I ended up taking War's Herald and putting in Sun's Roar. So Sun's Roar was in the video the other day. This is where I made a mistake. Well, it was in, I think, this 2 days ago video, and then in the last video, somebody said you really don't want that if you're using auto exertion. And I went back and reread this, and this coincides with a video I'd watched. I don't remember what creator put it out, but there was somebody talking about videos and war cries and infinite power and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as I saw the one comment, it all came together, and I was like, oh, I understand now. So the gist of it is, when you use auto exertion support, there is a line on here. Let me find where it says. The very bottom line in the auto exertion support. Supported war cries do not grant buffs or charges to you or your allies. So that nullifies this entire ascendancy point here, because the infinite power and the buff effect is all that's for. What I did is I looked at that and I said, oh, Warcry, click, and I selected it. I wasn't, and like I said, you read things one day and then you put things in another day. This was a very big lesson to learn, because that was basically a wasted ascendancy point. This one was giving me some life regen and Warcry duration, but this was doing absolutely nothing because I was auto exerting. So the comment that I got was, somebody told me that I wanted to run, or I had multiple comments from different people. One comment was that I needed to be exerting at least 3 or 4 different war cries, and I was like, man, there's that many war cries in the game? I thought there was only a couple, because usually I run like Enduring Cry or something like that, maybe, or because back when we used to have it on the click, when you could put it on the left click, I only had one. So I never cared about it, like when I was running Bone Shatter or whatever. This is a different ballgame. We now have this auto exertion gem, which is brand new, and we can now run all these different cries. So I hadn't thought about running multiple cries and all that stuff. So when I got that comment, I looked at it, and then somebody else gave me a comment that said, if you're running auto exert, you don't want this ascendancy point. So if you're not familiar with this, if you take this auto exertion out and piano key these to where you have 3 of these assigned down at the bottom, you'd have to every so often click a button for Seismic Cry, click a button for Infernal Cry, and click a button for Intimidate. In this case, those are the 3 cries that I'm using, but you would grant buffs. And there's lines on here that says buffs grant 5% more armor per 5 power, which is what the unlimited power gets to. You don't have to stack up. Basically, this stacks up power until it gets full, and then it's good. With this ascendancy, infinite power just means these start maxed out, and that's it. And then you get the 30% increased buff. So if I wanted to just click the button on this, these would be great. You know, buffs grant 15% increased stun threshold on this one. This one's got buff grants gain 5% of fizz as extra fire damage per 5 power. That's a lot of damage in there. And then Intimidating Cry gets buff grants 3% increased movement speed per power charge, which is okay. That's not why I took this, but that's a lot of good things to have for 3 buttons. And I don't feel like punching a bunch of buttons. Like, I don't want to have to hit 3 buttons and a leap slam button. That's 4 buttons I got to start pressing on. It's just getting annoying, and I don't want to deal with it. So I like the fact that I have auto exertion. But if you're going to run auto exertion, you do not get the buffs or charges. So you don't get any of that. So basically what I'm getting from, and I started looking at my cries that I had. I ended up dropping Enduring Cry. It sucked. It's not for this build that I've got going right now. It's not that it sucks. It's just not for this build. It didn't fit. I kicked it out. And I started looking at the other cries that there are. If I can swing another cry yet, if I can get enough reservation efficiency to get another cry in there, there's another one I'm looking at. But the 3 that I settled on is Seismic Cry, because this one gives you exerted attacks have 50% more area of effect, which is why this just balloons out all over the place. And then Infernal Cry gives you exerted attacks trigger Combust the first time they deal a melee hit, which Combust is at the bottom here, deals attack damage in an area, so probably area damage is going to apply. This is 60% of physical damage converted to fire damage, and it's triggered by attacks exerted by Infernal Cry, which is basically everything I'm slamming down. I only have 1 skill, which is Tectonic Slam, so that's everything that comes off of it. And then Intimidating Cry, exerted attacks deal double damage. There's no limit to this. It just straight up says double damage. So I presume that when I slam that ground, that 44,000 tooltip DPS is 88,000, and it just smacks down while this cry is in effect. So if I could, and if I tried, I 5-linked my mace because I wanted to try to see if I could add like Corrupting Fever or increased duration or something like that, but I don't have the reservation efficiency. As soon as I click something into it, the 5-link, it shuts off. So I was like, all right, I can't do anything with that. So I ended up 5-linking this for basically no reason. Then I looked at it and I was like, well, you know what? I do have my AoE stuff over here. And I might have moved a bunch of stuff around because I think I had my AoE. I think I had flammability and my other AoE stuff on the old gloves that I had, because they had +2 AoE levels, something like that. I can't remember what was on there, but I ended up moving a bunch of stuff around. So I ended up taking the cries from my mace and putting them over here. And then I'm guessing I moved the automation stuff around because it needed a bunch of different colors. And I think I made a mistake and tried moving these into here. I don't know. I got kind of sideways, but I ended up moving a bunch of stuff around. And I ended up putting all my AoE stuff up here, which is all life tapped. So we've got flammability up here, which is now level 20. We've got increased area of effect, which affects both of these, which is Defiance Banner and flammability. And then I put more duration support on here because taking advantage of the 5 link, I think I was running increased area of effect, but then I was able to put more duration on so that both flammability and Defiance Banner lasts a little bit longer, hopefully. So that's there. And then we've got Leap Slam and Life Tap on the helmet. And then the other change that I made is because I started working on this Pantheon stuff, there's like a whole big tapestry of things that I've done. So because I got this in here, I was able to take out Purity of Elements and I put Haste back in. Now, the reason I put Haste is my old boots, I think I still have them. I might have put them up here. These, I was able to use Essence to get 30% increased movement speed on that, which was phenomenal. These things rocked. They were great. In fact, that's where the automation setup is right there, because that's still the coloring for it. But I couldn't get any movement speed on these. When I rolled these, or what they rolled is what they are right now. And I didn't want to run an annulment on there because I didn't want to lose any of the good stuff, because it has a habit. I would probably lose like the fire res or something. Something that I really wanted would go away. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just not even going to chance it. So I put Haste in its place up here. I could try something else, but Haste is the one that I want to run with for right now. It's only 16% increased movement speed, but it is a little bit of increased attack speed as well. So it's a little better than it was. Somebody suggested running Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, stuff like that. I don't have the mana reservation efficiency for it. There are some other points we can go to somewhere in here. Oh, this here, Champion of the Cause. I can get 12% increased area of effect, 8% increased reservation efficiency, and more area of effect. We could also get 20% increased life reservation efficiency of skills, which won't apply, or is 30%. Yeah, no. The other one that I would probably take in here is +1% to all max elemental resistances if you got reserved. No, not that one. There's one over here for armor. I took the 30% reduced extra damage from critical strikes. I could take this other +1 for a little additional resistance, max resistances. Or I think there was another option that I could take that at too. I feel like there was another one that came in somewhere that I had up here on Armor Mastery. Yeah, it's up here where combat stamina is. I can also take that. So depending on where we are, level 92, so I've got 3 more points left. I usually get to 95, and that's about it. So I could put a point up here for this +1 to all max res, and probably one down here for Culling Strike. I don't know where my third point's going to be, but that's kind of the story of it. And I took this Storm's Embrace. I ended up dropping out of Sun's Roar. As soon as I saw that comment, I'm like, dude, Sun's Roar is not going to work, because I just watched this video that talked about what infinite power is, and I didn't connect the 2 dots because I'd read stuff so far apart. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, I got to fire the game up and remove these out. I was done for the day, and I came back and ended up removing those and swapping over to this. So Storm's Embrace does modifiers to max res also apply to max cold and lightning res. So that's why I have 83% into everything. So I don't have to worry about resistances. They're covered. That's good. I could have gone back into Flames Advance maybe, or Sun's Light. I don't know. I'm happy with what I've got. I think I think for the Ascendancy side of things, I love this Death's Fury. That I think is phenomenal. When you can just slam the ground and stuff explodes and kills a whole bunch of things. Like, well, I've started going down into Delve and spending some time. I'm at like 110, depth 110 or something like that. I'm no problems. In fact, we could run down there real quick. What's funny is if I do one of the azurite nodes, I just go stand in the corner and slam down and just let it blow out into the corner. Let's go to this azurite node here real fast. I just slam the ground and it's great. I think I have died a couple of times in here since. I've been using lower levels. I'm at monster level 81 right now. I've been trying to, this is kind of what I do, is I stay a little bit higher, level 100, 120, something like that. Hover around the lower level monsters. I try to stay, we're at 92, I try to stay at like level 81, 82 monsters. Just because it's too risky. I don't want to take the chance of dying. So I don't. We out of the light radius there. Clear all this crap out. So I'll hit that thing, then I'll come over here. I'll throw my, oh, I forgot to say, I did switch out my banner too. I was using the banner that would, I think it gave me a little bit more damage or something like that. I didn't like it all that much. I switched to the Defiance banner. I think it's the Defiance banner that gives you some spell suppression while it's in use. So if I throw that thing down, I get a little spell suppression on there. You'll notice that I'm just firing from this side and everything over there is just dying. Like nothing got over here. If you get a real thick rare or something like that in there, sure, they'll come over and hit you. But I've not had any issues. I just slam down into that corner. And when you're clearing half of the screen, and not only that, when this thing catches up to some of that other stuff, it'll go off the screen because something will explode and just take that off the screen. It's great. I love it. Defiance banner. So this grants 8% spell suppress, 8% chance to suppress spell damage to you and your allies. A little bit of movement speed. I don't really care about that because it's such a small thing. But with the increased area of effect, I can't throw that thing down, but I can throw flammability down. That's a nice big ring, you know, so increased area of effect, increased more duration, stuff like that. At least I think that's how duration's supposed to work, is it makes it last longer. I'm not sure, but that's the theory anyway. So that is where we are. This build is rocking along. I've barely had to bring out my caustic arrow build. I have had to bring it out a couple of times because there were some really sketchy ones that either had Ellie reflect that I couldn't do, and I still couldn't do it with that build, or there was something that I was just instantly dying with this build, and I switched over to that one. It's got more mobility and can run around, plus it can just throw degen the whole time. So even though I took a few portals to kill some of the bosses, I was able to get them done. So between using both builds, I've gotten 93 out of 115 of these things done. And I did the last Maven one. It's not the 10-way yet, but I did the last Maven one. I think the 10-way's next. I think I'm up to tier 16 maps, but I'm trying to get these filled in and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, pretty massive update if you ask me. I am very pleased with the way this build is turning out. And for everybody that's helped out and all the comments that I've received for this, I definitely appreciate it. It's very helpful. I read them all and I try to take them to heart and try to figure out what somebody's trying to tell me. This game is not necessarily straightforward, and the comments, it's hard to write a good, adequate comment. Some people do, some people don't, and sometimes you got to figure out because it's a couple of lines. I know some people lose their comments, so they try to keep things brief, or it's hard to convey certain thoughts over a short amount of text, basically. But I've read all the comments and I've tried to take them all in and figure out where to fit all this. And this is what I've come up with, and I'm really happy with it. The one thing I need to do is, while I'm thinking about it, I need to anoint my amulet. I have not done that yet. I typically use, which one is it? Why am I not seeing it? It should be right here. Oh, martial experience. I typically use that for bone shatter. On this one, I may try to find if there's something that's fire related or something, like, I don't know. I know there's a bunch of fire nodes up here that can't be anointed. Oh, that would be in POB. I'd have to look in there to see what the anoint is. But I'll try to look around and see what I can anoint onto that. I should be able to get that done. And that, I mean, this build is running very well at this point. I will add that I lost some damage. I don't know where I was at on the DPS tooltip here, but my damage actually went down slightly, a couple thousand DPS when I swapped out the gloves and boots and the helmet. When I did that trifecta, I did lose a little bit of DPS, but I gained some defenses. So I think I'd rather have the defenses over the DPS. So anyway, that's where we are with this build, and hopefully I'll get it up to level 95, hopefully finish out the mapping, and then I don't know what we'll do from there. I don't know that this is going to go into bossing anytime soon. I may try to spin up another build. I was kind of going to do another build, and then I got excited to work on this again and started working on this, and that's kind of where I've been. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.